Dear students, welcome again. We were discussing the part 10. In the part 10, we are thoroughly understanding the concept about the controlling. And we have started with the module 46. And in the module 46, we have got an idea about what is controlling. We have discussed it with two definitions. The concept about the controlling. We have discussed eight characteristics of the controlling and the different element of the controlling. In the element, we have understand the planning as an inseparable part of the controlling, information, your measurement of the performance, feedback and the corrective actions. These are the some important element of the controlling processes. In the module 47, we will be getting an idea about the interrelationship between the controlling and planning, the importance of the controlling and the limitation of the controlling. So, these three topics we will be discussing in the module 47. In the last session, the element of the controlling, we have got an idea about the controlling and the planning as a very important element. As we can say that planning activity start or initiate the actions. Okay, like in the planning activity, you decide the different element of the objectives. What are different activities that you will be performing to achieve the objectives? Okay, so planning is something initiation of the activity. Whereas controlling is like how these activities are monitored, how these activities are performed. Okay. So, we have developed a relationship that both the planning and controlling are interrelated and we call them as a twin sisters. So, with this let us try to understand what the different management thinkers have an opinion about the planning as well as your controlling processes. Hicks stated that planning is prerequisite for controlling. Without planning the activity, you cannot control them. Or if you are controlling the different activities of the different employees, without the activities are planned, there is no meaning. Because what we have understood about the controlling, it is a process of standardization of activity. And where the standardization will be done? It will be done on the very first stage, that is your planning activity, where the objectives of the organization will be framed. It will be done in the planning stage only. So, we can say that planning set the stage for the controlling activity, and if there is no planning, there is no controlling. That is why Hicks stated that planning is prerequisite for controlling. It is utterly foolish to think that controlling could be accomplished without planning. It is very obvious that controlling activity thinking about the controlling activity without the actual planned activity is a foolish activity. And why it is so? Because there is no standard set, there is no objective mentioned, there is no division of the activity, then how you will be able to measure the performance? So, controlling activity is like measuring the performance of the employee and corrective actions are taken. Until and unless you do not have your standardization of activity, measurement of activity, comparing of activity and then the corrective action, you cannot do anything in the controlling process. Alright. So, without planning, there is no predetermined understanding of the desired performances. Desired performances means your standardization that I am talking about. Again, Billy E. Goetz think that management planning seek consistent, integrated and articulated program, while management control seeks to compel even to conforms to the plans. So, one is about the desired thing that you want to achieve and one is about how the things can be managed or controlled to achieve that particular desired objective. again try to understand with an example. What was the objective of the company in the last module? It was achieving the 50,000 marks of the sales. All right. So, this is something which is a desired objective. What was the actual? It was 30,000. It is an actual performance of the employee. Again, what will be the next step? Next step will be making sure that why the company has not achieved additional 20,000, which was of like desired objectives. So, you will see that this is the planning thing and this is your controlling thing, and it goes hand in hand. That is why we call it the planning and the controlling is inseparable, or they cannot be taken as a different management function. Okay. With the planning, the controlling goes on. Controlling is unattainable in the absence of planning, that we have already discussed. Insufficient planning hinders the effective control as it lacks the established criteria for measuring and assessing the outcomes. If you have not predefined the standards or any kind of assumptions for the different subordinates or different employees, they will not be so motivated to achieve those objectives. And if they have in their mind that we need to complete the task in this particular time period or with this particular cost, or we need to like reach out to the target audiences of more than 30,000 for example, then in that situation they will be like having the clarity of the work that they need to perform. If in absence of that particular standardization, you are measuring the performances, there is no worth of like evaluating your subordinates. It is very important that in the planning stage only the standardization or the objectives should be fixed, or the responsibility can be shared to the different employees. Planning and controlling are closely interrelated. We have already discussed it. The process of control employs the criteria for evaluating performances as established by the planning phase. Okay, those all the things talks about the same thing. Planning or controlling cannot be done without proper planned activity. Okay. So, if we have to compare the planning and controlling activity, Creature and Mason has distinguished the different activities of the planning and controlling, and we try to learn or relate the different activities. Planning is emphasizing and it is more impersonal. Impersonal means what? There is a very formal activities which are designed. While you are framing the objective of the organization in the planning stage, you discuss the plan with the different subordinates, different managers, which is not impersonal. You call a formal meeting and discuss the things very formally. That is why emphasis is on impersonal activity, abstract and long range problems. Planning activity are done for like overall growth of the organization. It is not like a day-to-day activity. Day-to-day activities are also done, but not at the top level management. We are talking about the top level management where the long term perspective will be approached for. Whereas controlling more emphasize on the personal, concrete and immediate problems. So, what is controlling, or what are the criteria or the characteristics of the controlling? That it is personal as compared to the planning thing. It means like you will be discussing the things or any kind of deviation, or you are not meeting up or understanding the standardization. In that situation, you can meet out with the superior and have the clarity about the activities to be performed. All right. It is less structured, it is highly structured. It means the planning activity are done for the future. Okay. there is always an element of uncertainty will be attached with the planned activity. So, we can call it as it is structured one, but as compared to the controlling activities it is less structured. It is highly structured. How we can call it? Because you have the data about what was the standardized thing and what are the actual performances, and you compare it, then you will be having more data to take any kind of decision or any kind of remedial actions. That is why it is more structured data. Third one, uses range and estimates, more reliance on measured data from the specification. Estimations or any kind of estimates or the ranges are taken into the consideration or for any kind of planned activity. Estimation will be done, like you are doing the project, like in the next 6 months you want to sell 50,000 smartphones. So, on what basis you are like taking this decision? Based on certain like pre-data or based on the market structure, based on the consumer purchasing power. Okay. So, these are based on some of the estimates which is not actually present. However, the controlling are like they take more consideration, or the actions are based on some concrete data. Okay. Like 50,000 smartphone, have you sold it or not? If it is yes, then it is okay, and it is less than 50,000, then obviously controlling measures will be taken. So, there is a clarity about the data with respect to the controlling mechanism. Next one, top executive expend much time, whereas operating and lower level personals are more involved in the controlling activity. The planned activity, obviously it is taken by the top level managers. We have already discussed in the planning portion, like the top managers or the good brains in the organization, they will be involved in the planning processes or like defining the objective of the organization. Whereas the operating or the lower level or the more of technical employees, they will be more engaged in like achieving those standards set by the top level managers, because in the planning stage only we set the standards. Okay. And the operative levels, they will be more directing their efforts to achieve these kind of standards set by the top level managers. Last one is evaluation of result is difficult and it takes longer time to determine. Like you plan the activity for like 6 months, year, 5 years, or it may be like more than that as well. Okay. So, ultimately what will be the change in the situation after the planning activities has been taken? It is beyond the control of the planner. That is why evaluation of the result is difficult. However, results are often visibly related soon and are easier to access in simple situations. So, after the project is over or you have the data to actually compare and take the corrective action. Okay. So, it is very easier to access the data and take the corrective actions. So, this was the comparison between the planning and the controlling aspects, and again we try to understand the interdependence of the planning and the controlling activity with a figure. Okay. As you can see in this figure, planning is meaningless without control and control is aimless without planning. So, it is a very beautiful line, the planning is meaningless without control. If you have planned activity and if you are not like measuring the performance of the different employee, then there is no meaning of that particular plan. And if you are controlling the activity, but you have not set the standards, there is no meaning of controlling process. So, both are like inseparable part and one thing cannot be done in absence of other. Alright. In fact, planning and control are inseparable twins of the management. As I have mentioned, unplanned action cannot be controlled for control involves keeping the activity on course, correcting deviation from the plan. Alright, now try to understand the planning and the controlling relationship. Planning is the first stage, action. Suppose your planned activity is to complete the different pending works in the organization, or you take another example, you want to launch a new smartwatch, for example. There is a good trend of the smartwatch. Now the company is planning to sell at least 30,000 smartwatch in the next quarter. You will be designing all your activity, you will be having the discussion, meetings, division of the work for the activities or your objective of selling 30,000 smartwatches, and this will be your action part. Now action part will be, this is your standardization as well, this is your standards or the benchmark that you have set. Controlling activity, now action leads toward the controlling activity. Now actually you have achieved 25,000 smartwatches, sales of 25,000 smartwatches. Now what will be the controlling part? Controlling part, as you can see, is the direction is going again towards the planning thing. It means that in the controlling you will be getting some kind of loopholes, because of which there is 5,000 shortage of smartwatches in the sales figure. So again it will goes towards the planning activity. What does it mean? It means you are taking the corrective action to rectify the error at the first stage. Alright. So planning and controlling is an ongoing activity, and it is a continuous process. So we have talked a lot about the planning and controlling interdependencies and how these two functions are inseparable. With this, we try to understand about the importance of the controlling activities. Okay. Very first one is guides to operation. It means like if the standardized activities are there, the employees will be having in the mind that these projects or these activities need to be completed within the time frame, within the specific cost factor, within the quality of the parameter which has been set. Okay. So these things will give the clarity towards the individual about how the activity can be planned. Okay. Or the operation part will be more easier for them. They will be guided towards, or they will be motivated towards accomplishing those objectives. Okay. So the controlling as a process, management functions guide them towards the operation. Second is the policy verification. In the planning phase, okay, it may be you are taking certain policies or taking certain decisions which was suitable based on the that situation, okay, based on the external factor as well as the internal factor. But over a period of time, what you have observed that there is a change in the external factor that demanded to like review your existing plan. Okay. So this will be done by having the controlling mechanism. Alright, take a hypothetical situation. You were like planning to sell the smartwatches, 30,000 smartwatches, and you proceeded with the manufacturing function. Now over a period of time, like after you manufacture 10,000 smartwatches, what you have observed that the government put a ban on the use of plastics to manufacture anything, and you have used the non-biodegradable plastic in your smartwatches. Now it will be the violation of the rules or the law. What you will be doing? You will be changing the policy thing. Now you will be remanufacturing those smart watches with more biodegradable plastics, which is approved by the government. So, anytime you will see there could be a change in the environment, and the company need to review the policy or the different decisions to adapt with the changed environment. So, controlling process will help you in reviewing your plans over a period of time. Third one, setting the managerial accountability. When you are deciding the standard or the benchmark for each of the department, you have given the budget towards your marketing team that you need to sell out so and so number of unit of the product within the stipulated budget. You need to hire, no need to hire more sales personnel. You can use your existing sales personnel or your resources to reach the maximum results. What will happen? The accountability of the sales or the sales department or the sales manager will be towards achieving those objectives. So, with the controlling process, you set the accountability of the different department, different employee, and like you can guide them to achieve those objectives. All right. Fourth one is employee morale. It means when employee are knowing what they want to perform. Okay, it means guide to operation. Okay, now guided, when they are very much guided about what the activities they will be like performing. There is a clarity in the minds with the employee that these things they need to perform. This is the total time, this is the total budget, this is the standard we have to meet out. It means they have the clarity in the mind. This will ultimately increases the morale of the employee. All right. Next is the psychological pressure. It is the human nature, like we tend to complete activities at the very last moment. But in the organization, these things will not work. You have to like very attentive or very much punctual towards completing all the activities. So, controlling is sometimes act as a motivator, okay, and it created a psychological pressure in the minds of the consumers so that they can meet out the standards. Okay. So, suppose the production department, the standard is like 25 rupees per unit you have to manufacture a particular pen, for example. So, standard is set. This will be in the minds of the production manager, and it will create a psychological pressure that within the standard price we have to manufacture all our pen. Okay. So, this will act as a booster or a motivator for the employees. Sixth one is coordination in action. How coordination can be like integrated through the use of the controlling process? When all the management or all the employees are having the benchmark, okay, like the objective is to sell 20,000 pen in a month. Now, this is the objective. Now, is the objective, this objective is only meant for the production department or the marketing department or the IT department or the HR department? It is a integrated task or the responsibility of all the department. If the production department is not able to manufacture the 20,000 pens within the time limit, then how the marketing department will be able to sell it? If the IT department is not able to design the like the structure or the technology for the pen, how they will be able to produce it? So, these are the functions ultimately leading toward the coordination of all the activities. All right. So, each department will be coordinating or they will be like making a cooperation with other departments, so that overall organizational objective of 20,000 pen per month can be achieved, sales of 20,000. Okay. So, this was the importance, and the last one is your limitation of the controlling. Now, controlling sometime act as like a barrier for the employees at over a period of time, because of too much of psychological pressure, too much of like standardization is being developed. So, ultimately the employees within the organization will work under too much of pressure, and over a period of time there could be resistance in the minds of the employee, and they can leave the organization and they can join the other organization. Okay. So, there should be a like balance of the control as well as the flexibility should be there to like avoid any kind of stress in the minds of the employee. Okay. So, with this let us try to understand what are the different limitation or the barriers for the controlling measures. An enterprise cannot control the external factors such as government policies, technological changes, changes in fashion. No matter whatever standard you set, no matter how efficient your employees are, until and unless if the external factors are becoming dominant, you cannot do anything. We have taken the example in the last slide regarding the smartwatches, na? Like the objective was to sell 30,000 smartwatches. However, you manufacture the smartwatches using the non-biodegradable plastics. The government has taken the decision that it will no longer for the companies to like use the non-biodegradable plastics for any manufacturing any kind of product. So, even though your planned activity, your controlling activities were very efficient, but you cannot do anything now. You have to dispose of all the smart watches and remanufacture the smart watches, because of you have to abide the law. Okay. So, controlling activity cannot be like very favorable, or it can be implemented with the external environmental factors. Second is, controlling also loses its effectiveness, but is not able to fix the responsibility of a specific individual. Sometimes it may be the situation is like you are not able to fix the responsibility of an individual. Sometimes it happens. So, in that case there is no accountability, there is no responsibility of the individual, then how you will be able to measure it, how the corrective action will be taken up. Okay. Third one is, it is a expensive process. Expensive means like you need to have an expert who can control the activities within the organization. You need to take the remedial action, like you will be going back and reviewing all the plans. So, it will take too much of time. Okay. It is necessary, but at the same time it is very costly process as well. Controlling loses its effectiveness when the standards of the performance cannot be defined in quantitative terms. Okay. Like controlling process can be done, or the effectiveness can be measured only if it is quantitatively measured. But what if the problem or the root cause of the problem or the deviation is not measured in quantitative manners? In that situation, you will not be able to compare the actual results with the standard results, able to know what are the deviations. If you are not able to know the deviation, how you will be able to measure the or take the corrective actions? Okay. So, everything is linked. For instance, it is very difficult to measure human behavior and employee morale. Human behavior or the employee morale is very important element in like increasing the efficiency of the organizations or the activities, but it is not possible to measure it quantitatively. All human behavior can like behave differently. So, these are some of the barriers in the controlling mechanism, and with this we in this module 47 we have thoroughly understood about the relationship between planning and control, the importance of the controlling mechanism, and the limitation of the controlling process. And in this slide there are some suggested books, you can go through it for better understanding about the controlling process. And in the next module, we will be trying to understand about the types of the controlling and the steps required for the controlling process. That is all for the session. Thank you so much.